Hi, Sadie here, and today I'm going to show you my method for taking in the waistband of a pair of jeans. Now, my method is kind of in between two kind of popular methods of taking them. There's the quick and dirty way, where you just dart the entire side of the jeans, or the more complicated way where you fully deconstruct the waistband and the back seam of your jeans with varying degrees of success when you do that. My method is kind of somewhere in between. Before I get into that, if you'd like this content, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. The first thing you want to do is try your jeans on and pinch the back at the amount that you want to bring them in. And I suggest using a safety pin and then move around in your jeans. Dance, sit down, jump around. You know, it's really important to sit down because our bodies naturally expand when we're in the seated position, and you want to be sure that your jeans are loose enough that they accommodate that and they're comfortable. So I always like to do that. Once you have it, you have the safety pin in place, and you're going to remove your pants, and then you're going to mark where that safety pin is on both sides. Then you remove the safety pin, and you're going to make sure you can see those marks. And I'm not sure if you can see them because I did them in blue, but they are there. And the distance between my marks is 2 inches. So I'm going to be removing 2 inches from my waistband. The next step is to take your seam ripper and you're going to pop off just the top of your belt loop that's at the center back. And I've already done that for this one. And then you're going to want to remove the waistband. Now, the waistband of jeans are 2 layers. So you need to pop both this top seam and the seam that's holding it to the seat of the jeans. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start popping this apart. And you know, it's fiddly and it takes some time. So just get that seam ripper and go to town. All right, so this takes a little bit of time, but I already have one that is fully taken apart. So here we go. This is another pair of jeans. I'm also removing 2 inches from the waistband. And what I've done, here's that belt loop that I removed, and I've popped off both from the seat of the jeans and separated the top of the waistband. I've also cut the waistband right at the center back in half so that I could get it out of the way for my next step. Now, because I'm removing 2 inches from the waistband, I also need to remove 2 inches from the seat of the pants so that when I stitch it all back together, it's going to fit. In order to do that, I'm putting darts. That quick and dirty way that I talked about would have been to just dart the entire waistband and the pants, and it's not super attractive. If you plan to tuck your shirt in or wear a short shirt, you're going to see that and it doesn't look super professional. So this way, I'm removing the waistband out of the way and putting my darts in before reattaching the waistband. So because I know I need to remove 2 inches, I have 1 inch darts, and I've already drawn these out with my chalk. I've placed them center of the pocket at the top, and this distance is 1 inch, and I'm just going right down to this decorative top stitching placket feature of my jeans. So I'm going to fold the dart, how you sew a dart, typical way. You fold it right sides together. And once I fold it, I know it's like 1/2 inch. A little trick that I have to mark this is I'm just going to put a pin on one leg of the dart and a pin on the other leg of the dart. And then I fold it right sides together and line up my pins. So once I have those lined up, I'm going to take one of those pins and repin it so that it's holding that dart together, and I can remove the other one. And I know that I'm going to be stitching starting 1/2 inch because now that inch is folded in half. I'll stitch from my pin down to this existing decorative seam. And I'm going to back stitch at the beginning, but at the end I'm just going to stitch off and hand tie the threads. If your jeans don't have this decorative little placket edge thingy, you can make your dart as long as you want. But I want to keep my dart above this just as a design visual feature. So I'm going to go over to my machine and stitch both of my darts. All right, so now you can see I've stitched those darts in place. If you're working with a heavier denim or your dart is a bit larger than mine, you may want to cut that excess dart flap off to reduce bulk, but my denim's pretty thin and I'm just going to leave it in place to give it a bit more support where those darts are. So I know that I'm taking out 2 inches from my waistband. I have 1 inch on each side that I'm going to be removing after I stitch it in place. So I'm putting it right sides together and I'm going to pin it. And here's an important tip. So the waistband, as you can see, it comes all folded up, right, when you remove it. I'm finger pressing out those folds. I want it to be fully flat. So I'm not stitching those folds in place, I want them out. So the 2 flaps get placed right sides together with all those folds pressed out. And I'm going to pin it, and I know my seam allowance is 1 inch because I'm removing 2 inches. So I'm going to pin this one like so. And I'm going to pin the inside as well. Make sure you don't get all twisted. And that again is right sides together. And those folds are pressed out. And I'm going to pin it. And I'm going to go stitch it. So I'm going to head over to my machine and I'm going to stitch these in place at 1 inch. So now that I have both of my waistband pieces stitched at that 1 inch seam allowance, again, that's because I'm taking out 2 inches. So this measurement, this amount is going to vary depending on how much you're taking out of your jeans. So now I'm going to trim this down just to remove that bulk because I don't want that in there. And we're going to start to put these jeans back together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up that new center back seam and I'm going to pin the top of my jeans waistband back together. And so I'm going to throw in lots of pins. My jeans actually have some stretch to it and I'm trying not to stretch it too much as I do this. Now, different denim is going to behave differently depending on if it has spandex in it or not and it's stretchy. So you just kind of have to play with it and make sure that you're getting it put back together in a way that lines up the top edge and those seams. So now that I have the top pinned, I'm going to start stitching over where like the original stitching was. And if you can see there's this dent or darkness, I'm gonna try to stitch right in that, which was where the original stitching was. And I'm using a thread that's going to match the top stitching of these jeans. And this is like, it's either like a really dark navy blue or black. I'm just gonna use some black denim thread in my needle on the top and some regular black polyester for my bobbin thread. That's what I'm using. So I'm gonna go over to my machine and make this stitch. All right, so now I've stitched the top of the waistband. I'm gonna work on the seat of the pants and the bottom of the waistband. So to do this, I'm gonna make sure again that those center seams are lined up. I'm going to sandwich my seat of my pants into that waistband. And I'm just gonna pin away until I have it all pinned. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna go back to the machine and I'm going to stitch in that original dark folded mark that I can see. I wanna stitch right in that. So I'm just going to throw in quite a few pins here. Again, I'm gonna keep peeking on this inside to make sure that I'm catching the seat, and those darts, I have them finger pressed towards the center on both sides, so the darts are facing inward. And I just wanna make sure that I'm really catching that when I go to stitch this back in place. I've got it all pinned, and now I'm gonna go stitch it in place. So I finished stitching that seam, and while I was at my machine, I went ahead and I reattached the top of my belt loop. And this can be really tricky because we're going through a lot of layers of denim here. So I had to go really slowly, and I went forward and backward to really get a nice tack down. Now, the great thing about this is that the belt loop is now hiding that seam that we created to reattach the waistband. So it's hiding that, and it looks nice and professional, and they're gonna fit nice and snug at my waist now. So that is how I take in the waistband of a pair of jeans. If you have a way that you love to take in the waistband of jeans, please share it in the comments below. I would love to know. And thanks for watching. Happy sewing.